Thursday, March 31st. I'm Rim.
I'm Scott.
And this is Geeknights. Tonight we ramble a bit about why game companies point out flaws and pretend to fix them.
Let's do this. So, what's today's date?
Today is Tuesday, March 31st.
So tomorrow is?
Wednesday, April 1st.
That's right. And tomorrow, at what? Did we decide 7 p.m.?
Yeah, sure.
Is that for reals?
Yeah, sure.
All right, 7 p.m. tomorrow, Wednesday, April 1st, 2009. We will be doing some live streaming type action that will involve many awesomenesses, including you asking us questions and us answering them with aliveness. So
it's Geeknights Live.
Yes. So this will involve Ustream. This will involve Twitter. This will involve, I guess, the forum probably. Maybe we should use the Skype, the Geeknights Skype a little bit. Right?
I don't know if we'll use that. I don't want to set that up downstairs.
But for just the people to send in messages, not to talk, but to just a way for people to get their questions in live.
Yeah, basically like Scott will watch the Twitter and the something, and I'll watch two other things, and we'll just kind of we'll go live. We'll go with it. We'll see what happens.
Yep. So also the Suffice to Say. So I created an account for Geeknights on Twitter and Suffice to Say, so you can send messages to those. I'll watch them. I guess I'll watch my own if I can manage that many things on my one little laptop. And we'll answer questions, do a little... Well, I guess it doesn't have to be questions. It could just be call us in with whatever you want to say, and we'll respond to whatever we feel like responding to. That's the beauty of it not being voice, of it being, text, is that we can just sort of look at it and ignore what's poop and respond to what's not poop.
Plus, you'll get to see us. We'll be sitting on the couch, I guess.
Yeah, I guess we'll sit on the couch and do this, and so that's going to be a special thing tomorrow, and we'll probably also record it and put it on the internet, afterwards. I guess I'll let Ustream record it also, because Ustream can do that. Yeah,
might as well. It's something that we should have done a while ago. We just never thought to, so we figured, we'll start spring with something cool.
That's right.
Especially since Jobless Scott, we got a lot of free time to actually do stuff.
Yep. Jobless Scott, great.
Well, one of us does. I don't have any free time.
That's right.
It sucks.
So that's tomorrow. If you missed it, it's recorded, and you can. I'm gonna go after we're done with the show. I'm gonna make sure to put announcements for it and everything all over.
Just remember, it is April 1st, 2009. At 7 p.m. Eastern Daylight Time.
Yeah, I don't know if...
I don't want to get a tweet like a year from now asking me a question on the show.
And don't come asking me, right, like, what time is that in my time zone? You can go to Google and you can type in... You can go to Google and type in 7 p.m. EDT in, GMT and push enter, and it'll tell you, all right? You don't need to ask us to cover your time zones. This is the internet. You have the internet.
Scott, that was quite a preemptive complaint.
I know.
I didn't see that being a concern.
You're listening to this show. Someone already came up to me with that concern.
Really?
Yeah.
Well, wait, was the concern that it'll be at a bad time for them?
No, they were just like, what's that in GMT? And I'm like, you can figure it out on your own.
Actually,
with Google.
It's getting to the point where I pretty much have to think in GMT all the time at work.
I know, right? But, just for people out there, Google is the ultimate converter, right? You can go to Google and type in, 7 miles per hour in, furlongs per nanosecond, and it'll tell you.
My car gets 7 miles to the hogshead.
Yeah, Google will tell you
rods.
that. All you have to do is literally go to Google and type in, $5, dollars per hour in yen per minute, and it'll tell you. So you can type in convert anything to anything as long as it's a valid conversion. You can't be 7 ounces in miles. That doesn't work.
So parsecs?
I don't know if parsecs are in there or not, but it's got pretty much all metric and English units, and also antiquated units that are precisely defined.
Yeah, like feet and inches.
Yeah, furlongs, score,
all that stuff.
Yeah, it understands. So if you go and you type in 5:34 p.m. GMT in,
I think they get
Chinatown,
it. I think they get it.
It will tell you.
But I was at an office for a certain kind of meeting. I'm trying to skip all the reason I was there and everything, but it's one of those high-rise buildings in Manhattan. And we're in the meeting, And I'm facing the window, and it's this corner, like, giant conference room. And
Bird hits the window.
No, I'm looking out the window, and it's kind of like this internal area. Like, the building is a big L, so there's a space between the two. And then
you're looking at the courtyard area.
And, like, 4 stories down is the roof of another floor in the building.
Alrighty. All right.
So I'm sitting there, and I see 2 maintenance guys come up to the window opposite me, and they're, like, looking at it and talking to each other, and I'm pretty much trying to pay attention to them while sounding like and looking like I'm paying attention to the meeting.
Mm-hmm.
And then they open the window, and I think, oh, they're doing something with the window. And then one guy just hops out the window and is now standing on the 1.5-inch ledge, holding himself in by the bottom of this flimsy-ass window.
Usually they have a little strappy thing that they sit on.
No strap. He pops out, he's holding onto this thing, then he grabs onto the ledges. Now he's holding onto the ledge, he lets go of the window, and he starts washing the outside of the window.
That's not how you're supposed to do it. You're supposed to put this little strap out there with a little hook.
Yeah, I think everyone knows that that's what they should be doing, but this is not... I don't know.
Did he fall?
No, he didn't fall. He
must have been an expert.
He did this to like 10 windows, but one, all I could think about was that TED Talk about work. And then 2, all I could think about was that someone really needs to call OSHA.
Yeah, those 2 things are both correct.
The worst part, he gets to like the 4th window, and he gets out, and he's starting to wash the top, and the bottom of the window starts sliding down. And now I'm thinking, is he going to notice before it gets all the way down? And if it does, will he be able to reopen it from the outside? And it's going down slowly. I see him look, and he goes like, ah, and he shoves his foot into it. Then he stands there for a minute like he's trying to figure out exactly how to deal with this. I don't think he could have lifted his foot without falling. So he kind of shimmies down and like worms the window up and jumps back in, collects himself, crawls back out, puts a stick so the window can't close all the way, and continues washing.
Yeah, while I agree with that TED Talk about work, the strappy thing isn't really that inefficient. It's actually pretty cool. I mean, it's not like, they're forcing them to use the, the lift with the winches and whatever. The
thing is, there is a lift with the winches. I saw it. It was at the bottom of the courtyard.
It might not have been for him. It might have been for someone else.
It was for window washing. I can see no other purpose. And if it were not for window washing, then clearly the man who maintains the winchy thing and the man who maintains the window washing need to talk.
Well, is the thing is that in the city you'll often see lots and lots of just construction stuff, right, all over the place, but it all belongs to different groups. It's like that belongs to the MTA, that belongs to...
It's owned by the building. It was on the building's roof for the building. The building is owned by one person.
It could have been, owned by a contractor or, anyone. So it's like you can't go using someone else's shit. If you're like got to repair a building and the painter is there and he's got one thing, you can't use the painter's shit.
Scott, I doubt that was the case. I'm pretty sure they just don't want to use it because it takes too much time to use.
Yeah, but the strappy thing does not take too much time to use.
Well, apparently it does because it's a much better idea to risk your life to wash windows.
Maybe the guy just is so, nonchalant about it.
Or maybe he's like the 10th guy.
Maybe. Whatever.
Then everyone else noticed, and that pretty much destroyed the rest of the meeting because everyone watched him. One guy was like, I should yell and see if he turns.
Yeah. Hey, you! Huh? Should have shot us. How far away was it?
He was about 20 feet away.
Oh, really? You could have got a spitball over there or something.
Maybe one of those office rubber band shooters.
Ooh, Gatling, some Nerf action.
No, I felt like it wasn't a day to murder someone.
No,
so.
It wouldn't be murder.
It'd be manslaughter, in the very least.
I don't know about that.
That would most definitely be manslaughter.
I don't know.
The lawyers in the forum, I believe, will concur. It's manslaughter in the 3rd degree, in the very least.
The guy's the one who's putting himself in the danger. The Nerf does not add any danger to the situation.
I beg to disagree. Plus, remember, the legal system in the U.S., I believe they call it the paper skull theory, that even if you don't intend to hurt someone, if by some fluke an action
he was the one who hurt himself by not following the instructions.
Yeah, you go tell a judge that. Yeah, I saw this guy hanging off the edge of a building.
No, I just happened to shoot a Nerf arrow out the window. I didn't even see the guy.
I just happened to shoot my gun out the window.
Yes, my Nerf gun. It's all right.
My real gun.
I threw a paper airplane out the window.
My gun plane.
Anyway.
So it's Tuesday. What do you got for me?
So everyone on the internet is talking about, the Game Developers Conference just went down, right? So there's all sorts of stuff that came out there. And everyone's mostly been talking about this OnLive thing. And basically the premise here with this OnLive is that everyone now who wants to play fancy games, right, with fancy 3D and fancy sound, right, needs to go and get a fancy machine, be it a big, powerful computer or a multi-$100 Xbox 360 or a multi-$100 PS3, right? Well, cloud computing is all the rage. So the idea with OnLive, and fundamentally it's not such a bad idea, is that you don't have to get a fancy computer. Why should you have to buy a big fancy computer? You're just for games, right? Instead, we OnLive will have all the fancy computers. You won't have to buy an NVIDIA GPU or anything. And we'll just send the finished rendered video to you the same way we send television to you. We'll just send you high definition video. And you'll just send your controller presses to us over the internets, and we'll do all the hard 3D work on our side. Thus, you won't have to buy a fancy machine. You'll just basically have to stream video from us and stream controller button presses to us, and you'll have awesome top-of-the-line gaming. And in fact, if games upgrade and they need even more horsepower, you don't have to upgrade anything because it's just...
Now, I feel like Penny Arcade probably dealt with this in the most summary fashion, but physics pretty much tell me that this isn't going to happen.
Well, I mean, it could happen, but the problem right now is this, right? Online games have lag, right? That's even with a really good internet connection, you got to ping. There's some number of milliseconds.
But the lag is not between me and my computer. It is between my computer and the server.
So what happens
there?
Let's say you're playing Counter-Strike, right? When you push the button on the mouse to shoot, the shooting happens instantaneously. There's immediate shooting going on. Now, where that shooting hits, and the people that you see in the game, right, might not actually be exactly where you see them. The game uses a predictive model to draw them where they are probably going to be, and it corrects, that location if the network, tells us that the prediction is, not correct. So, the lag is sort of in the back end rather than in the front end.
Now, it used to not always be that way. A lot of early online games, the lag did appear in the front end. I remember the first time I played Quake 1 online, and I had a modem at the time, so I dialed into this thing, and I'm trying to play Quake, and I would I'd hit walk, and my guy would just kind of move and not go anywhere for a little while, and then jump forward suddenly.
Yep. Now, if these OnLive people were talking about, games like, say, Checkers or, even something more advanced than that. Like, DDR, I guess, could work, right? Kind of. Maybe not really, no. Something that's not a real-time game. A game where you take turns. Or a slower game like Tetris.
But here's the thing, a game like that...
It would work just fine.
A game like that has no need for a system like this.
Exactly.
Because you'll be able to run it on anything. There are only two ways to look at this technology. Either they're crazy, or it's a Phantom console.
That's what I was just going to say. Is this thing really, really reeks of Phantom console to me. The Phantom console, their idea, in case people don't remember, was that they were going to make a console you plugged into your television. Because, PC gaming, the major problem with PC gaming is that high-end PC gaming is expensive and difficult. You have to install all these programs and get them to work and configure them. They were like, hey, we'll make this Phantom console. You just put the CD-ROM from a PC game into it, and it'll just work. We'll just make a system where PC games just work. That way, people won't have to configure them and fuck with all that shit that, normal people can't screw around with. Of course, that was an utter failure. And in fact, that's a lot more difficult than what these OnLive people are talking about. Now, I think that there's some potential in this OnLive idea in making, high-end gaming more accessible to the masses, the same way Quake Live sort of made it a little bit. But I see the technological hurdles making, actual FPS gameplay very, very frustrating unless the box on the consumer end has more horsepower than they're letting on, thus giving it the ability to at least, do some prediction and things like that.
But even then, I feel like they won't be able to wrap games in a way, they'd have to do a lot of changes to the games to make them work well in something like this. And I can't see that being worth money. all the hardcore gamers already own PCs. There aren't that many people who can't afford a fast PC who want to play the small number of games that require the fast PC.
Well, one thing that someone was talking about that might actually sort of work out, right, is I don't know if people remember back in the day, right? There's remember the BS Zelda, right? The Zelda with the satellite.
The one that a lot of people for a long time didn't actually believe existed.
Yeah, but
partly because it's called BS Zelda.
Yeah, but there was also. Do you remember the Sega Channel?
Oh, yeah.
Right? So the Sega Channel, for people who don't know, was you had a Sega Genesis, and you put this cartridge in the top of it, right? And that cartridge, like, hooked up to your cable television. And so what you did is you tuned your cable television into the Sega Channel. Even if you wanted to get the Sega Channel, almost no one had a cable provider that actually offered it, so it didn't matter. And now you could, through the cable television as basically functioning as the internet, because this is pre-internet, right, would sort of get Sega games. You could, choose demos and then just sort of play them over the Sega Channel. So I think what they might be able to do with this, right, is they might be able to be like, okay, you bought cable television, you bought satellite television, you're in a hotel, whatever. Here's a game controller to go with a cable box. So it's like, and then there'll be just channels you can tune to that will have games.
This is no different than most hotels have that N64 controller sticking out of the TV.
Right. So basically what they're going to do is when you get cable, there's going to be some channels that have games on them. And some people, might, who aren't big gamers be like, yeah, why should I buy an extra box? Whatever. There's enough gaming for me. How many people out there are just, they're not quote casual gamers and that they want to play crappy Flash games and that's it, right? But it's like they have a PS2, they have a few games, they get some GTA and some Madden, and that's really it. That this might go for them. Maybe
I highly doubt that, because people like that will just use something like GameTap. Or there are a million other solutions that already exist.
Well, I don't know. I think if they can get it on a lot of cable networks, that it might.
I don't think they will, because I think, honestly, that cable networks are going to be dead in not that long of a span.
That's a separate situation here.
So, but the thing is,
think about you call up your cable, you call up to get some internets from someone, right? And they just give you a game controller with your, cable modem or whatever it is.
I still don't think they can overcome. I mean, what they're trying to do, what they say this is going to do, really is impossible from almost any perspective, because the kinds of games they seem to want to have and the way they want this to work just wouldn't really work. And your method is more the idea of you just kind of download it'd be like the Roku. You just kind of download or cache the game locally and then just play locally. You're not going to be playing these games with other people.
Yeah, the multiplayer aspect is really sort of questionable. And caching locally, that's not what they're doing, because they're not going to have any 3D hardware locally. It's all going to be remote. So you can't.
I don't think there's any market for this, any viability of it. And it's either a scam or these people really don't know what their product is.
I really do think that it is not going to ever occur. It's definitely has the highest probability of being like the Phantom game console. It's total vaporware. It's never going to really exist. But one day it could exist with faster, internets and such. And, there is a way to maybe get some people to use it, kinda, but it's gonna be something that happens like 3 or 4 more times down the road. You'll start getting it.
You're a lot more optimistic about this than I
am. I'm barely optimistic at all. I'm heavily pessimistic. I'm telling you, this OnLive company is going to be right. There's no way. But
the fundamental way that they're going about this, I think, is the wrong way to go about it. Just kind of fundamentally.
I think it could work in the distant future when internets are faster.
See, but even if internets are faster, you run into one of the things we ran into at work when we're working on latency for market data and stuff is the speed of electrons and the speed of light.
Yep.
We calculated the minimum possible latency we could get based on how long it would take an electron to follow the path, and then we shot for that, and we achieved that, and we couldn't get more than that.
Yeah.
There's nothing better.
Nope.
So maybe, this could work. I take this all back. They could actually pull this off, because if they use quantum entanglement, there would be no lag.
See, the thing is, I think that there is the problem is, while you demand and I also demand, say, zero lag in the FPS department, right? I think that, people out there will deal with some milliseconds of lag between pushing the button and the gun shooting. And I think, as long as they can get that to be very small and not like noticeably frustrating, I think that, 50 milliseconds won't frustrate the vast majority of people. It'll frustrate us, but not...
I think it will frustrate anyone they would be marketing to, because using this for simpler games, there are much better ways to go about it, like I said.
Mm-hmm.
Plus, remember, like the Sega Channel, that was just broadcast. Like, it wasn't too
But what
lag.
it would do is it would bring like high-end 3D type HD FPSs and things to people who currently can't play those things at all because it's inaccessible to them.
I don't think they'll be able to achieve that on any level.
I don't think they will now, but, some years from now.
I don't know. I'm pretty doubtful.
Now they're going to fail and be vaporware.
But anyway, there's this other article on Slashdot. It's called Game Companies Face Hard Economic Choices. I believe that they might be faced with full life consequences.
No, I don't think so.
But this is a long article, and there's a lot of Slashdot talk about it. But I wonder what is going to happen with the game industry, because basically we're running into this situation where, one, the economy's down, so people aren't going to pay as much money for entertainment.
Isn't it coming back now?
Well, the stock market's coming back.
Yeah.
That doesn't necessarily mean that the economy is coming back. But two, even the economy's down. A lot of people are out of work. Jobs are, there's trouble on that front. And games haven't gotten cheaper, and in fact, in many ways, have gotten more expensive. And not only that, games cost a lot more to make now than they used to, at least for consoles. Since I'm not really going to worry about PC games because they're still kind of the minority, and World of Warcraft really makes the rest of them not matter at all.
Yep.
But like
Steam is starting to make some moves, though.
They are bit by bit, but then again, the games that are really rocking Steam are the cheap games now.
Well, we're not going to get into that discussion.
Well, there was that whole thing where when they lowered the price of Left 4 Dead, the sales skyrocketed to a crazy.
Yeah, it's like they lowered the price
degree.
by half, but the sales jumped more than 50%. Thus, they made more money by selling it for a lower price. Yes,
But that's relevant to what's going on here, because one of the figures they bring up is that it costs about $25 million, they say, to make a game for a current generation console.
Oh, a big fancy one.
Well, which they consider to be a normal game, like an A title.
Okay.
It cost about $10 million to make for the last generation. I don't know if that includes inflation or not, but even if it does, that's still a lot. That's a big difference. And gameplay-wise, there aren't that many differences between the two generations. And now that sales are down and there's so much competition, I mean,
no, all that money goes into, voice actors and 3D and fancy graphics and
marketing,
cutscenes and marketing. Yeah.
But the real issue here is that game sales are not what they used to be, coupled with the fact that it costs more money to make games and there's more competition, because, we talk about this a lot, the whole can't compete with the past, but Quake Live really illustrates this more than anything. We've got a game that came out when I was in high school.
Yeah, late 90s Quake 3, right?
It's already been made. Like, it's done. It doesn't cost any more to make the game.
It's already done.
So they just take this, re-release it, put some stuff around it that cost almost nothing to make compared to what the game cost to make.
Yeah, I mean, making a website is a lot cheaper than making a 3D game.
And it's doing well enough to where it's real competition for brand new FPSs that come out.
Yeah, there's a lot more people playing Quake Live than there are playing, like, FPSs that just came out. I mean,
what FPSs?
I don't know, but...
What's this?
What's what?
So how many people are playing Quake Live?
Thousands.
And how many people are playing these fictional FPSs you're making up?
I don't know. There's probably, there's not a lot of people playing.
Playing what?
I don't know what that Unreal something that was super cheap on Steam, like the newest Unreal tournament. No one's playing that.
That was a new Unreal tournament, right? Not a re-release?
I'm pretty sure the one they were selling on Steam for cheap was the newest one.
What about the Halos and all that? Is there a new Halo? When was the last Halo?
I don't know how many people are still playing Halo 3, but it's only on the Xbox.
How about Counter-Strike? How many people are still playing Counter-Strike?
More people are playing Counter-Strike than anything else ever, and it will always be that way.
Actually, what was surprising, I went to play Counter-Strike the other day, and all the servers were still there. And for a lark, I logged into Team Fortress 2 to take a peek. And a lot of people are playing.
Yep.
But they're all playing the same maps when it came out, and they're all playing. Like, it's weird how the game is so static now. But anyway,
People are playing Left 4 Dead also.
and Reggie even, they have a quote from him that they say it takes about 1 million sales on the Wii to turn a profit for the average game.
Well, for a big game. I mean, if you make...
Well, you see, you keep saying big game, but all the people in these articles are saying average game.
Well, I'm talking about, like, you know, if you break out, right, you can't tell me, right, that you need to sell 1 million copies of, like, Tetris for the DS to make money. You know, you can't tell me that it takes 1 million sales of Mega Man 9.
I said for the Wii.
All right, Mega Man 9 did not need 1 million sales.
That doesn't count. They're not counting the Virtual Console or anything like that. They're talking about disc games, like Wii games that are in the store with the Wii logo on them there for the Wii.
All right, but you go to the store and look for like the crappy Wii games, like the ones that were obviously thrown together in like, you know, a few weeks just to like for some licensed property, like, you know, generic cookie cutter platformer for kiddie cartoon show number 3 does not need 1 million sales to profit.
All right, well, this is what Reggie's saying, but anyway, and the average game on the Wii seems to sell about 150,000 copies.
It's about right. If you take all the crap games into account.
See, I don't know. I don't know what these numbers are exactly.
No, because Nintendo's not going to tell you shit.
Yeah, but it was interesting that Reggie would say something like that in the first place.
Yeah, I guess.
But I don't know. I feel like there's going to be a big change in the industry because all the indications are that games are overpriced. And
really?
But like, I think they're overpriced to a frightening degree, and I think that the sort of price equilibrium. I mean, people just expect a new game to cost between $40 and $60 on a console.
Well, because I mean, look, the NES came out right way back in the day, right? Atari games, the prices were like all over the place, right? But when you got to the NES, the price on new games was like $50. They were all $50. There was really not much fluctuation at all. Like
not Mario 3 and
were
Zelda
$60.
2 were $65 when they came out.
But I think that those are retail markups. I think the MSRPs were always $50, and I think that was, you know, Toys R Us and other people when they saw that this was a big demand game, they raised the price up a little bit.
I don't know. That's all
I don't know that for sure, but that's my guess. But anyway, you know, there wasn't a great deal of price fluctuation, and it seems like people never really thought about changing the price for video games. They just always left it at $50 because that's what they were. But you know, as we got to finally the Xbox 360, PS3 generation, Microsoft and Sony were finally like, yeah, these games are getting more expensive to make. And they started to look at the price, and they raised the price to $60-ish, right, for newer games. Whereas the Wii said, look, we'll stay at 40 and 50 or whatever. You know, we're not gonna raise the price. And handheld game prices have always been around $30 for, you know, a handheld game that was brand new at least. And just no one, at least in the United States, is like, there hasn't been an actual changing of prices on video games to see what the market value actually is. And, you know, no one's actually ever done it. They've never lowered the prices to see how many more you'll sell. They never raised the prices to see how many less you'll sell. There hasn't been experimentation at all. It's just sort of been the prices are what they are because that's what they are, and no one messes around with it. And
well, I would guess that honestly that the industry as a whole it's not a conspiracy. It's just that they're worried that if they start lowering prices, the games are going to hit what they're actually worth on the market. And I think there's so much free content out there now, both pirated and legitimate, that the cost that people will pay in lieu of any other option is very, very, very low, to the point that they will not be able to make the big budget games that they've been making.
Well, see, actually, I think something slightly different is that if you look at Steam, right, Steam has shown that if you lower the price, right, on some crazy awesome game, right, that the sales just are the numbers on it are just so crazily large that it's all right. You know, if you come out with, say, a new Zelda game, right?
But Scott, at the same time, can that really be definite? Because so they lower the price on some games. Those games now, not only are they really cheap, but they're competing with far fewer things because you're only competing with things at the same price point now. If every game was that price, maybe those sales would just spread out and the same number of games would get bought. People would just have more options again and they'd pay less overall.
That's a very good question.
That's what I worry because you only have so many hours in a day to play games. Even if you're in college, I only spent, tops 20 hours a day playing Counter-Strike.
I think what you might
play
see,
that many games.
even if all the games went down to like $20, right? Big ones, right? I think what you might see is at first you would see, people going, holy shit, and because they have, so much money. It's like, the kids who would normally go and sell back a game and then, to buy two or whatever, stuff like that, right? Now you're going to see people like buy a shit ton of games, crazy shit tons of games. The sales temporarily, for maybe even up to 6 months to a year, would go crazily high. You just get crazy numbers of sales all over the place as people buy up all these great games at low prices. But then I think over time, as people had these, come to these realizations of having a shelf full of games that don't get played, would go back to just buying, the number of games that they can buy at, whatever price they can get. But I think you will also see perpetual increased sales among kids, gamer kids who have, not so much money, but would now buy more games if their prices were lower.
Well, I think the biggest concern, competing with the past is that unlike other media, movies and CG and all these things, at least with video games, the curve of, technological advancement or the maturity of games as a platform, as a medium, all these things really flattened out in the last few years to the point that the differences in terms of gameplay and even graphics between cutting edge games and slightly older games and then older games and older games and older games is not as much as it used to be. I mean, the difference between the Atari and the Nintendo was like VHS and DVD, chocolate and shit. But now, the difference between a PS2 game and a PS3 game to many people is not that much. And PS2 is still the biggest console out there. Games are still being made for
the
it.
The PS2 might go down to $100 real soon. Actually, it is going down to $100 real soon instead of $130, which is what it's been for a very long time.
But we're getting to this gameplay and accessibility and just desire-wise flat plateau of gaming where people who play games are just as satisfied playing a game that came out 10 years ago as they are playing a game that came out today.
They're satisfied playing an iPhone game,
Well, even gamers, not just, 80s nostalgia gamers, but just self-identified gamers will often play a game that's 5 or 6 years old because they couldn't play every game that came out in 1999.
Yeah, it's weird. It's like you don't see really discussions of graphics anymore. I think it's actually sort of disappeared. Where are the, I used to always, there would always be like one punk kid or two who would come along and be like, oh man, this is so much better. The graphics are so much cooler. That hasn't happened in a relative, I can't remember the last
You
the
don't
last
hang
time.
out in the right places on the internet. Well,
probably, but I can't remember the last time
places.
I had to slap down a punk kid for that, And I think, the Wii sort of came and they had the right idea in that, gameplay matters and let's change it up, but they didn't.
Well, they started to a little bit, and then they said, never mind.
And now they just releasing GameCube games with Wii controls.
That kind of happened with the DS, though. I mean, remember games like Kirby's Canvas Curse?
Yeah.
There were all these kind of games that were like, let's try to do something different. And now the games that do really well on the DS, other than like the Cooking Mama and those sorts of things, Castlevania, which is just a Game Boy game.
Yeah, well, at least the two screens are put to very good use. That was a great idea.
It was.
And the the microphone, very bad idea, right? Local wireless multiplayer, very good, right?
Not integrating it with the Wii, oh my God, very bad.
Yeah, touch screen, is just, it's okay. It's but it's usually just used as like, menu selection or something along those lines. Games, they actually play a game with the stylus as the control.
Well, there's the Phantom Hourglass, which I think did a pretty good job with
that. That was okay.
It was an interesting concept, and it's worked a lot better than I expected. But.
I think, the GTA game that actually uses it, as a menu selector down low. It's like you have a PDA that you can sort of poke at. So you go to the PDA menu, and then you use the stylus to navigate your PDA to check your missions and your, buy ammo and stuff like that.
But
right?
at the same time, like a lot of games that like Chrono Trigger added the menu at the bottom. And it's still just so much, or Advance Wars, you could just click where you wanted your units to go. It's so much faster to use the D-pad and the buttons.
Yeah, well, in those games, yes. But I think that it would be possible to have the stylus be faster if the interface was implemented better. In some of those.
I guess the gist of all this, you should read the article. There are a lot of interesting tidbits in it that are kind of unrelated and decontextualized, so there's not a lot of useful, real information in this article. But the relevant quote, I think, is, quote, "The model as it exists is dying."
Yes. I think the key is just that
More importantly, these are too expensive and there are too many choices.
Yep.
And think about it. If they lower the prices, there are just as many choices, unless only one person lowers prices and other people don't.
I think the key is that if you want to make money with games, you have to A, make your game as cheaply as possible while still getting it done. B, your game has to be different from the other games out there. No more, the cookie cutters are not going to do it anymore. Another FPS that just looks different is not going to work. Your game has to be set apart from other games for reals. 3, you got to get your game on like every platform in the universe, from like the iPhone to the Wii to the right. There's no reason to not put your game on every single place that it can be played, right? And you're going to have to find the price point at which you get the most profits, whether that's $100 or $5 or whatever. You got to multiply price by sales and figure out.
But Scott, that's basic economics. That's not useful at all.
But the thing is, people haven't done that with games in the past.
Well, they try to.
No, they really haven't. No one took the risk of setting a different price point until recently. On Steam.
On Steam, yeah. There have been other experiments in that front. I think more it's...
But no one ever took the risk on actual real deal games because it was too big a risk.
But I don't think it's so much the risk factor. It's that if everyone else is charging $50, I know I can get away with charging $50.
Yeah, but maybe you would make more money going $40. Maybe you get more sales. You don't know. And no one's going to risk trying to find out because you'll make enough with the 50.
But, according to the article, people aren't making enough, and that's the problem.
Yeah, well, now they're not, but they were.
It is sad that of the, quote, 486 games that came out for the Wii, only 16 sold more than 1 million.
It's because most of them are terrible.
And 9 of those were first party.
Yeah, if Nintendo made more, great Nintendo games like they make, that Punch-Out is going to sell 1 million. I'll tell you right now. Guaranteed.
I'll buy it.
I'll buy it.
You'll buy it.
Not now.
Yeah, the thing is, I have so many games to play, I don't need it. No game is worth me buying when it comes out anymore.
Yeah, wait. Why should I get it right away? There's no need for right away.
So will it become, not you can't compete with the past, but you can't compete with the bargain bin? Maybe this is why so much of the industry is focusing so hard on trying to prevent first sale.
Yeah.
Because if you just wait a year and buy the game in the bargain bin for $5, there are so many games out that if you play every game a year behind, you'll never pay anything for games.
I think the next generation, it's not going to be physical media anymore. It's going to be over. Physical media for games, I think, is done. It's going to be all download.
I don't know it's good for almost every reason in the world, except for the fact that I can no longer lend my games to other people.
Yep. Well, I think the solution to that would be just Steam should let you get rid of the game from your Steam and put it on someone else's,
But they have no vested interest in allowing you to do that at all.
No, I think we need a law to force them to do that.
A law to force the ability to transfer DRM protected media.
To transfer digital property. Yeah, to enforce the right of first sale on digital properties.
That would make me buy a Kindle.
Yeah. It's not bad.
If I could just give someone else my ebook when I was done with it?
Yeah, if you want to put copy protection on digital property, you need to still allow a mechanism for, the right of first sale. For, I should be able to, if there's DRM, usually it means everyone has an account. I should be able to delete a WiiWare game from my Wii and add it to my friend's Wii,
See, now this is one of those situations where the market will never, ever, 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 ever provide that.
Nope,
there's zero incentive.
They'll never do that.
It can only come out of
regulation. It can only come
regulation.
from a law that demands it.
Without regulation, that can't happen.
Nope.
So, I don't know. I'm a strong advocate of regulation and laws to protect first sale for video games.
Yeah, I'll do that.
Even though it'll probably go one step toward destroying the video game industry.
That's fine. I think there needs to be a law for sale on digital property.
Well, no, I think there needs to be a destruction of the video game industry.
There should just be a general. There should be a general law that says right of property transferal. If you pay for a good or service, you should be able to transfer that good or service to another party, by any terms you wish, just unlimited, unrestricted resale. It's actually, if you think about it, not so much a regulation as an enforcement of deregulation. It's basically saying everyone has the free market right to transfer their things to others. It's sort of, protecting capitalism. More, saying that there is no right of free sale is the anti-capitalist way. It's preventing, the market from doing what it wants. It's preventing people from, it's restricting economic freedom of peoples.
Well, I'll go one step further and say that the video game industry, I mean, if things like this happen, or if this guy's right and the whole model's collapsing, I frankly kind of hope that the entire video gaming console PC market as it is completely collapses.
It's always great for things to be. We always see, as people who love change that we always want things to collapse, because whenever things collapse, they're never gone forever. They always rise from the ashes.
Either you rise from your grave, or you have 400 years of darkness.
That's fine. I don't think if there's
I want like 5 minutes of darkness and then new games. I don't want 4 years of darkness.
I mean, trust me, it'll rise from the ashes. People will always want video games, and people will finish the games they got, and they'll be like,
"Oh no, I was speaking more generally. You don't want everything to just burn down. I mean, I don't want."
Well, no, it will never burn down completely, but
no, but like I don't want society to generally burn down around me.
No, that's not a good idea.
I just want the video game industry to burn down around itself.
It did already once after the Atari. It'll probably, sort of, there'll probably be just sort of an actual revolution in gaming.
But anyway, that all aside, things of the day. I love mashups, and this is my favorite new mashup. They mashed up the movie Amadeus, which it always surprises me how many people have never seen it.
It's kind of long, so it's not too surprising.
It's not that long.
It's kind
longer
of,
movies.
Isn't it multiple? I remember it being like multiple VHS tapes, so it must be like, it might be 2 DVDs for the movie. I don't know.
I can go look it up, but regardless, it's not that long a movie. It's a pretty good movie, and I guess I'm surprised because I was actually forced to watch it in school multiple times.
I watched it in school multiple times, and I like it. I like it.
But this is a mashup between Amadeus and penises.
Really?
It's kind of like that thing in Superbad. it's I don't know what I can say. This is brilliantly done.
Yeah, this is pretty funny right here. It's a lot more funny if you've seen Amadeus.
It is, but it's funny. Like, you'll get the joke. You're going to wonder, what are they doing? What is this? And then it'll happen. You'll be like, oh, I get it. Penises. But it's just the same joke, kind of building and building and building. And they've already given you the joke. But somehow it just gets funnier and funnier and funnier as you watch.
Yeah. So check this out, right? I've imagined before, right, a game of Mario where someone else, is sort of controlling the level, right? Sort of an adversarial platformer. Well, someone here, they didn't really make that. This is more of a programming kind of tool, just an editor kind of fun thing, not so much an adversarial game. But they made Super Mario Brothers 1, but someone else, while you're playing Mario, can control the game with the mouse. So they can, like, pick up a Goomba and put it under you to kill it, or they can pick up a Goomba and drop it on your head to kill you.
Yeah.
They can pick up the mushroom and throw it down a hole. They can pick up a turtle shell. And you watch, they play through in this video worlds 1-1, 1-2, 1-3, and 1-4. And they do some pretty interesting stuff. Especially in World 1-3 with some of the moving platforms and with King Koopa. So you should watch this. You can fast forward a little bit. You'll get the idea, but it's pretty fun.
We need to make a game like that. I mean, remember North versus South?
That was a good game.
That had that. It had the kind of adversarial platformer. One person's trying to beat the level. One person's dropping monsters.
Yep.
Or in this case, Southerners.
Or Northerners, depending on who's playing.
Always play the North because they get an advantage in
I
64.
always played the North also.
So what are we talking about tonight?
Well, basically, this is sort of it's hard to, put a label on this topic that's very clear. But basically, I've noticed a recent trend in gaming, especially video gaming, pretty much only video gaming, where the marketing for games, is sort of saying things about games that are not true, right?
Not just hype, though. We're not talking about regular hype.
Yeah, we're not talking about things like bullshots or, things that are just, lying about features, right? We're talking about people who are coming up and bragging that their games are fundamentally different in some way. They're, they're complete, this game is a revolution in gameplay. It's totally different from whatever, Fallout 3, it's a totally free world. You can do anything. Oh my gosh.
Yes, you can do anything except tell the radiation immune mutant to push the button in the radioactive room.
Exactly.
Or
and
shoot
then
children.
The reality of the game is that no, really, it's just exactly like every other game in this genre. No different. You didn't have a revolution whatsoever. And in fact, this game is just like all the others.
I guess what really makes this stand out and why it's a topic for me is that it's not just that they make these claims. It's that they kind of identify exactly what the flaws are in an existing genre, like a type of game. It'd be the equivalent of saying, yes, Mario 1 was a great game, except for the fact that, there's nothing wrong with Mario 1, so I can't really use that as an example.
Not really, no.
But, taking, an MMO. Well, MMOs are a great idea, but, it's just a grind, and it's all just parallel. So I say, all right, my new MMO, there's no grind, and it's completely non-parallel. Everyone's, the whole world affects the whole world. And that's just not true. It's just a WoW clone.
Yep. It's like you recognize that the problem with MMOs was grind. And then you came out with, you said you weren't going to do grind. You said you were going to have an MMO that's different. And then the game you came out with was grindtastic. So really, what the fuck? Really?
I mean, it amazes me that people will so accurately identify what's wrong with the genre and then just not do anything about it and then say they are.
Well, I mean, look, there's like the RTSs, right? We'll be like, hey, the problem with RTS is that you have to click so much, and it's all about who's clicking the fastest that determines the winning. We're going to make an RTS full of strategy and tactics. And they use the word strategy and tactics, but I don't, and if their RTS was full of strategy and tactics, it'd be great. But I don't think they know what strategy and tactics means, because when I play their RTS, sure, there are these surface level differences where someone who, is perhaps, not really thinking about the game very hard might notice these, slight touches and think that they're clever and good. Like, I played that Warhammer 40K RTS, Dawn of War 2, right?
Yep.
It's like you can do some cool stuff. You can tell units to go into positions of cover, and you can have all these options of customizing units. But there's no strategy and tactics. It's just a really complicated rock, paper, scissors. You have all these options that make it seem to someone who doesn't, look at the fundamentals that, yes, this is full of strategy and tactics. Yes, look, it's not about clicking the fastest. It's about taking cover and having the right guys in the right positions and using the right guys against the right guys. But that's rock, paper, scissors, using the right guy against the right guy.
But at the same time, that's not 100% fair because all games boil down to either randomness, solvedness, or rock, paper, scissors.
That's correct. But the thing is that they, when people, I don't know if the company itself, I didn't read a lot of their marketing, so I don't know if they can be blamed, but a lot of people told me, if you want to play an RTS that isn't about clicking the fastest, you should play these. But really, there was a whole lot of clicking the fastest going on in that game. So what's up? Why did you say that if it wasn't true?
I mean, it's not like this is a new phenomenon, though. I mean, remember Daikatana?
Yeah, but that game didn't really make the sort of specific claims.
They did. They talked a lot about how this game has amazing AI. Like, the AI in this game is going to be so great. Like, you'll feel bad for the people you kill because they're so smart.
Yeah, I mean, Fear, sort of, people always talk about, Fear has this great AI. Oh, right? The AI in Fear isn't, I've played the demos of Fear 1 and 2. The AI in Fear is not any better than the AI in any other FPS. It's simply that the enemies have more things that they can do. They can jump over a railing or hide behind something. It's not better AI. They're not any smarter than the bad guys in any other FPS, just that they have more things that they can do. And being able to do more things does not make you smarter. It just makes you appear smarter.
But then what makes you smarter?
If the bad, it's not how many things they are able to do. It's which things they choose to do in the, it's the process of deciding which of those things get done.
But the problem there is that what if you just make them perfect? They decide the right thing to do every time, and as a result, they always beat you.
So they're actually good AI. Oh my gosh.
No, I don't think good AI necessarily necessitates that.
I didn't say that good AI. The thing is, right? Well, I say good AI. To me that means that the AI is smart and will do the smart thing. But it won't necessarily make a very good or fun game.
See, no, I would say that good AI is AI that is unpredictable because I mean, even when monsters, bosses in games like Castlevania or whatever, or FPSs, there's always the boss, and they either work in patterns, you have to figure out the patterns and know when to dodge, or they have like a set of 15 or 20 or 100 different things they can do, and they'll randomize them or they'll decide them. But it's very rare that I am caught off guard by something. Or that something, it's not just that it acts randomly, it's that it acts in a way that I cannot either, one, predict what it's going to do, or two, recognize the randomness. A monster actually that came close to that, surprisingly. Like, I was really surprised by this, but then I eventually figured out what was going on. But in Castlevania, there's this monster, the new Castlevania on the DS, that will, like, you'll see it every now and then. It's like, I forget exactly what it's called. You have to take a picture of it, but it just stands there not moving. And when you get close to it, it does all these things. And it was really unnerving to fight it because it was so static and yet at the same time so unpredictable that it scared me more than anything in any game has for a long time.
Wow, that's saying a lot.
Of course, then I ran into the monster 4 or 5 more times, and then I figured it out, and so much for that. But
yeah, that's, a good AI would be, when you play a game like Quake, against human opponents, right? There's no pattern to them.
The thing is, yes, there is. That's the sad part.
Some people are, but good people, they have like, the perfect move, which is just, that's what you do every time because it's the perfect thing to do. Or, I don't do the same thing every time in the same situation when I play multiplayer games. I mix it up. Sometimes I go left, sometimes I go right.
If you really want to have AI that emulates what people do, you just have to have them bitching and moaning and swearing all the time and periodically accidentally killing themselves in the corner with a rocket launcher.
That works. But, if you wanted to have a good AI, it should be like playing multiplayer. No one would want to play multiplayer anymore. And games, they say that they've got multiplayer. They say they've got AI like that, but they don't. They're just full of shit. Their AI is no better than anyone else's AI.
But I guess I wonder why people always say that, like, they identify the problem in the genre, but they don't actually do anything about it. Why doesn't someone just make a game why doesn't someone make an MMO where there is no grind, zero?
Well, they did. It's called Puzzle Pirates.
Yeah, but even then, Puzzle Pirates, the way you play the game, the puzzles get kind of grindy over time. You're not grinding to level up, but you're still kind of grinding at these puzzles that they don't take any mental effort from you anymore to sail your ship.
Well, I think that Puzzle Pirates, the key is the puzzles of sailing and such like that, right? Like if you're just sailing, that's not really so great. But I think the multiplayer puzzles in there, are pretty great, and also the ship combat puzzle is pretty great. It's those direct combat puzzles in Puzzle Pirates that are good. The supporting the captain of the ship puzzles are busy work, and if you like doing that, that's cool by you. But I don't, I think that those are a little bit grindy.
Yeah, but I guess the issue is that Puzzle Pirates is popular, but it's no World of Warcraft.
No, it's not.
And I think what's really going on here is that for any given genre, the things that we recognize as being wrong with the genre, not just we as me and Scott, or we as people who recognize these things, but the industry too. I mean, people, they make a new MMO and they say no grind in this MMO, or the grind is not so bad, or they identify that the grind was a problem. I think what they really recognize is that players secretly want the grind, but will go to the game expect, they say no grinds. They say, yeah, the grind is bad, but they don't really recognize in themselves that they secretly like the grind.
Well, speaking specifically on the issue of grind, it's pretty much obvious at this point that people, they don't like grinding, right? But what they do like is basically getting rewards and upgrades and power-ups, right? And they like, to just get more powerful and more powerful and more powerful. That's why things like desktop tower defense or, any Flash game that has upgrades in it. People love that shit,
but
right?
in a persistent game, they also care about the rate of getting upgrades versus the other people around them.
That's true. But that's in a multiplayer. But in a, just even in single player games, people love to constantly get upgraded. There's this cycle of, play. The difficulty starts to get a little hard, but then we give you an upgrade and the difficulty goes back down. So the game has this cycle of starts out easy, gets harder, then gets easier again because you got upgrades. Then gets harder, then gets easier again because you get upgrades. It's this, tension and relief cycle. The game never gets too hard that you lose. It never gets so easy that it's boring. So even though you are grinding, if that cycle is balanced psychologically, people love that shit. It's literally like psychologically addicting the way that if you can get that cycle just right. And WoW has that cycle exactly dead on. They have mastered that,
But I think players will recognize that they don't like grinding, but not recognize that they like all the effects of grinding.
Well,
so they'll go to an MMO
the thing is,
that says,
they won't realize that they're grinding and if that cycle is in balance. Because they'll be getting levels so often, they're like, oh, you don't have to grind. You only feel like you're grinding.
They know they're grinding. And
they know they're grinding, but it doesn't feel bad unless it either gets so hard, or unless you go a long time without getting an upgrade, or it gets too hard, or it's too easy and pointless and you have to do it for a million years. It doesn't feel like grinding, even though it is.
But I've noticed that among the so-called hardcore players, they'll grind and they'll even talk about, I had to cowboy, I ground my way up to this. I ground up a new character, grind. But they act like they don't like it. And they express like, it was a chore. I had to grind. But I feel like it's this almost affected desire to show off that they did the grind. Like, look, I did it. Look at me, the grizzled, tired man. I stayed up all night and I achieved this.
I think what it might be actually is sort of while you're doing it, you get the good feelings from, the cycle of reward, right? But I think that afterwards, when you look at the, you're all tired and the time you spent and what you actually got out of it, there's an amount of regret that comes out.
No, I don't think it's real regret, though. I think or if it's real regret, it is covered up by the fact that people will say they don't like the grind.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying, is that, they say they don't like it, but when they're doing it, they do like it. But they don't. It's a question.
Or they don't like it.
The question is, do they actually like it, or is it just the psychology of the brain tells you to like it?
I think with the grind, they don't like it while they're doing it, and afterward, they like the rewards, and they like all the other things about it, and they like the respect. I mean, it seems like you get respect if you.
Well, it's like a mouse who doesn't like to push the button, but he likes eating the food, so he pushes the button and gets the food, and then says, I hate pushing this button, but he keeps pushing it to get more food.
But I find it interesting that more and more, I feel like the game industry is marketing games saying that, look, here's a problem that we recognize with a genre that you also recognize. We're going to lie and say that we fix it, so then you will play the game and pretend that we fixed it.
A similar thing that they'll do, right, is they'll come up with something incredibly ambitious, right? Some incredibly futuristic science fiction idea. We're going to make a virtual world that is effectively, and they'll describe cyberspace. From Tron or something. They'll be like, oh, it's going to be like cyberspace for reals. And then what's the reality is it's Second Life. It's nothing like cyberspace. It's not even close. Or they'll say, oh, we're going to make this amazing role-playing experience. And what is it? It's just it's just a system that does D&D for you. It's not a role-playing experience whatsoever. You were full of shit. Or they'll say, oh, it's going to be like this great storytelling thing. What is it really? It's a JRPG that has 10 endings. Oh. Or, oh, we're going to make this great system of, morality. What is it? It's a one stat that either goes towards good or evil, and everything in the game is black and white. BioShock. Oh, yes, this is a big morality thing. What?
Yes.
This one decision, good or evil, the end.
Yep, murder
Fallout,
the children.
good or evil, the end.
It's either murder the children or send them to college.
The Star Wars game, light side or dark side, the end. Right? There's not any real morality going on there. It's just good or bad. It's just a decision. Good or bad, checkbox. But they play it up like, oh man, big time role playing, big time storytelling.
But it's weird that people the players recognize the problem. The industry recognizes the problem. The industry will say they solved the problem when in fact they didn't. And the players will just agree with that, even though nothing changed.
Well, I think that the thing there is that we have, some people are just unable to analyze games the way we analyze them in our, in the way we do, looking at the fundamentals, tearing away all the surface level cover-ups, looking at the math, looking at the game theory of the thing. So they don't recognize, when they play an RTS and they can tell their guys to take cover and they have 10 different weapons to choose from, that's just so cool. There's the obvious strategy. Look at I got to choose the right weapon. Oh man, and I can tell them to cover over here or cover over there. I can tell them to run, and they see that as strategy, whereas we realize actually all those things don't actually matter. Only these parts actually matter. All the rest is just fluff. So when by being able to see through the fluff and the stuff that doesn't matter, we can see that nothing has changed. Whereas other people who aren't able to see because they don't, they haven't studied these things quite so intensely as we have, They believe it because, and I think actually the people making games, I think that very few people in the video game industry actually study strategy and tactics and game theory or any of those sorts of things. So they don't even realize that they say, oh, our game is so strategic, right? It's not. Remember that guy at PAX? He showed you, remember there was that game where you had the squad and you just sort of click around? What was that game called?
Oh, I forget, but it was really fun until I realized that there were 3 colors and it was paper, rock, scissors.
Yep, I downloaded the demo on Steam. The game was rock, paper, scissors. That's all it was. Oh my god, there's some red bad guys. I better send my blue soldiers to fight them. Oh, there's some, green bad guys. I'll send my red soldiers to fight them. And that was the whole game. That's all it was. But, the guy at PAX, the guy who made the game from Australia, was playing it up like it was like this big-time strategic thing when it was no such thing.
I think it's more a psychological kind of complicity into this where, I reckon people recognize the problem, but they also at the same time don't actually want it to change, but they think they want it to change. So all you have to do is constantly tell people that you have changed things and made a different game, and they'll continue to play it even if it's the same game.
That's very possible. If you just change enough surface level stuff to make it look different, when it's fundamentally identical, people will believe it's different.
I don't know. I feel like this trend is going to continue, and I feel like we're seeing it more, but I can't be too sure about that because, again, Daikatana.
Well, yeah, but I think another problem here is that we can see these problems and agree upon them, but the actual solutions that, to these problems, the real solutions where we wouldn't be calling bullshit on them, require such advancements in, incredibly difficult fields. Like, you need pretty much like an actual AI, like a computer that is intelligent for reals. You would need, like a computer that could, win it go every time. You would need something so ludicrous to make a lot of these things happen that it's just not gonna it's not, it's not possible. Or you would need to make a game that would solve the problem, but it wouldn't be fun because it's psychology wise, just people wouldn't enjoy playing it unless they were like us, which is barely anybody.
I guess I just find it really interesting that we have an industry that will point out flaws and offer false solutions, and that works.
Yeah, that is quite interesting.
I don't know.
It's sort of like, and it's funny because the flaws they're pointing out is like in their own shit, right? It's like saying, yeah, that RTS we made is crap, but this RTS we made fixes all that crap. Yeah. Okay, why did you tell me your old thing was crap?
I don't know. We kind of rambled this whole episode, and I'm kind of hungry.
Yeah, I'm very hungry. Let's go.
This has been Geeknights with Rim and Scott. Special thanks to DJ Pretzel for the opening music.
Be sure to visit our website at www.frontrowcrew.com, where you'll find show notes, links, our awesome forum, a link to our Frapper map, and links to all the RSS feeds.
We say feeds plural because Geeknights airs 4 nights a week, covering 4 different brands of geekery. Mondays are science and technology. Tuesdays, we have video games, board games, and RPGs. Wednesdays are anime, manga, comic nights. And Thursdays are the catch-alls for various rants and tomfoolery.
You can send us feedback by email to geeknights@frontrowcrew.com. Or you can send audio feedback via audio. Just click the link that says Send Me an Audio on the right side of our website.
If you like what you hear, you can catch the last 100 episodes in iTunes or in your favorite podcatcher. For the complete archives, visit the website, which has everything.
Geeknights is distributed under a Creative Commons Attribution Non-Commercial Share-alike 2.5 license. This means you can do whatever you want with it as long as you give us credit, don't make money, and share it in kind. Geeknights is recorded live with no studio and no audience. But unlike those other late shows, it's actually recorded at night.